Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, dragging out a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening because we're playing Capcom vs. SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro, but you're going to notice something different about it compared to its Japanese Dreamcast release, and that is the fact that it now has a full English translation thanks to Justin Gibbons. And honestly, this is one of the best fighting games of all time, and while you don't really need to have English in a fighting game to enjoy the mechanics, the fact that this was a Japanese exclusive that never came over to the US and had more characters and other features we never got here, it's always fun to have a full English translation to understand what's going on with the characters' motivations, because honestly pretty much every single character in this game has their own personality either created by SNK or Capcom, and getting all of those end of match dialogue lines and other options is an awesome time. And the best part is when you marry to something like Capcom vs. SNK, one of my favorite fighting games of all time, you now have the definitive version of one of those absolute greats. Because if you know anything about me, I absolutely love my 2D fighting games, SNK over Capcom honestly, but that's a preference. You can tell me down below in the comments whether you like Capcom games better or SNK. For me, King of Fighters and Gear Mark of the Wolves will always be where my heart lies, but honestly, Capcom did an amazing job of getting SNK characters into their game a lot better than SVC Chaos. You have to give Capcom the gold medal for the crossovers as far as I'm concerned. And while the original version we got in the US is an awesome time, the Japanese exclusive Pro just has more characters and more features, and again it was always in Japanese, so Justin Gibbons went in and translated every single end of match dialogue line, and trust me, there's an absolute metric crap ton of them because every single character has their own dialogue lines, and depending on the characters you team up together, they'll have their own exclusive lines kind of riffing off of each other. So the amount of text that would have to go into a translation on this title is probably some of the most outside of a visual novel, and the fact is it's all translated over super well. All of the sense of humor and charm comes over, and the best part is if you don't read or write Japanese, you can now understand it because it is in full English. And of course it's still married to Capcom vs. SNK, and that is always going to be a fun time. Now this will run on real hardware. I'm using software emulation here to show everyone can enjoy it, but you can just pop this over onto your GDEMU and go ahead and play it that way, which is how I'll be playing it in the future, because again, Dreamcast and 31 kHz VGA with a CRT monitor just absolutely looks outstanding. But I wanted to showcase this via Flycast so everyone knows they can enjoy it without having to have that original hardware. And again, this is just such a big effort, and it's not just the translation, there's also different color options. Some of the move sets, when you actually get the characters menus, have new icons. It's basically gone in, cleaned up a lot of the other things within the options menu, and given you that full English translation. That really is a labor of love, because of course it's not like this game wasn't infinitely playable without the translation. You could sit down, you could enjoy it, you could enjoy the new characters like Joe, and still have a good time. But honestly, I love the match dialogue when a match ends. It is so much fun and kind of just drives forward the characters' personalities and the designers behind them and what they really think of their overall tone. Because here, when we have Morgan and Mai, some of their end of match dialogue really does riff off of each other and their kind of character design and quote-unquote assets, if you know what I mean. And all of that has been brought over into English so you can get a sense of it. And if for some reason you've never played Capcom vs. SNK, let this be a reminder that you absolutely have to play it. It is just such an incredible mashup game. I have it both on Dreamcast as well as Naomi, and it's something that I put in probably every 6 months or so just to get a couple matches in, but unfortunately in my real life, I know nobody who enjoys fighting games, so I don't really have anybody to play against except the CPU. But that works for my video needs. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, do you have any friends in real life that like playing fighting games, and do you guys do fight game nights? Because for me, while I have a decent handful of friends that do play video games, not a single one of them has ever really gotten into a fighting game. When I try to get them into them, they basically give up day one. But as far as the translation is concerned, again, this is a 10 out of 10 masterclass on how to do it. Every single line is well written. I didn't see any misspellings whatsoever. All of the orientation and kerning of the text and placement was perfect. I didn't see a single thing wrong with it. And honestly, that is a very big modification. All the translation, all of injecting the code into the game, creating the patch, beta testing it, it is not a small feat, and it's been done perfectly here. So 10 out of 10 marks on that. And the best part is when you marry it to such a good fighting game with such a spectacular soundtrack, you have a recipe for the new best version of this game you can play. But speaking of soundtrack, go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, and I'll be right back. Just amazing music, and in my opinion, one of the best fighting game soundtracks of all time. And if again you've never played this game somehow, you absolutely have to check it out. It's one of the absolute best, and I love all the attention to detail in the stages. As you fight through this under construction house and get further on into matches, more of the trusses and beams start to fall down just because of the sheer chaos of the fight going on around you. And again, you get this partner combined text translation right here. And I looked at the patch notes, there's over 4,500 different text combinations just for the partner win quotes alone. And the patcher says you're probably never even going to see half of them, but they went through and literally translated every single one of them so you can understand the full context of whatever partnership you make. Additionally, some of the web browsing elements have been translated over, some of the icons have been changed. There's so much here that you're going to be able to read, see, and do, and that is just absolutely so much fun. And that's why I love modifications like this. Somebody decided they loved a game enough and wanted to be able to share it and have everyone else see it in English that they went through and dedicated the time to translate every single line of Japanese over to English. And this particular stage right here is one of my favorites as well. As we go into the arcade, you can see the Capcom versus SNK logo in the background, and you even have a claw machine there as well. And that's why this mod is just going to be so much fun to play, because it's a game you've probably played before. But leave me a comment down below and tell me the last time you played this one is and what your opinion of it is, because there's definitely sequels to it, and I wish we could get another Capcom versus SNK game, because obviously we're getting some of the SNK characters over into Street Fighter recently, but I would love to see another full mashup. I've always loved this game's continued use of pure 2D before Capcom started mixing 3D and 2D elements together. While I think those games look great in their own right, the backgrounds on offer here being really high resolution with the character sprites just has that absolutely glorious 2D look to it that we all know, love, and remember in arcades. And Capcom did a great job as well getting over the SNK players' inputs, because of course Capcom games and SNK games have always played and felt differently. You may love one more than the other, or you may love both equally, but you do have to say that they do have a completely different play style. And the nice thing is, if you come from the SNK side of things, you're still going to understand the characters you choose from and how to play them. And that's what really matters, because you're taking so many different diverse characters from so many different diverse games and marrying them together into a mashup. You have to understand the readability of the inputs and be able to pick up and play no matter what side you're coming from. And of course for me, I'm starting from the SNK background with King of Fighters and Fatal Fury. And again, so much good English here, and some of it's actually relatively funny as well. And as we go on to the next stage, this is just the type of title I've absolutely always loved. Sure, I'm not the best at it. You don't come to Video Game Esoterica to see competitive fighting game skills. You come to hear about fun new mods, the artwork, the overall mechanics, and just how impactful these games were. And this one was huge. It was a big success in arcades when it came out, and it's still a game that a ton of people play today. And now with a brand new English translation patch with a bunch of quality of life improvements, you can even change the color of some of the bars to your liking. It just feels like the definitive version of an already definitive game. Because while this game never came out of Japan for Dreamcast, it ended up on PlayStation 1, and of course that's going to see some cuts because it is inferior hardware. So this was always the de facto best version to play, the pro version in Japanese, but of course it came in Japanese, and if you're like me, you don't read the language whatsoever. And before anyone comments down below, just read Japanese and learn it. Honestly, I have tried to learn different languages. My brain just does not have the faculties to be able to understand how to do things like that. So big thanks to Justin Gibbons for going in and making this for everybody, letting English language players be able to understand exactly what's going on in all of the different win quotes, because the pro version has more characters, more features, and it's just the de facto best version of the game to play. And now we can actually understand what's going on. I will leave a link to his Twitter below so you can go ahead and grab that patch. Just make sure you grab the GDI version of the disc and patch that. It does not work with CDI. And if you want to see more modification videos like this, leave me a comment down below, and if you ever see anything cool, just comment and maybe I'll do a video. See you next time. Bye bye.